John Kincade Show on 97.5, The Fanatic, Philadelphia.
All I can say is there's a lot of frustration this morning. Where do you place the pecking order of where people should be frustrated?
Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. I would look at the coach and the quarterback. The biggest issue from my perspective was an offense that really could not go toe-to-toe, could not keep pace with the Cowboys. That's what the Eagles' plan was. They thought this needed to be a high-scoring game. The Eagles' first 7 drives, they did very little. So that's what jumped out to me.
Zach, do you think it was bad game planning on Nick Sirianni's part offensively, or did the game dictate him trying to play catch-up and therefore the bad game planning came about?
And when you ask that game planning, I'm assuming you're referring to the lack of running plays, because I know that's been a big question and a big topic. I don't think that was by design per se, so I think a lot of it had to do with the execution. I think the lack of running plays was a symptom of a bigger problem, which was the fact that they were getting penalized so often. They were playing behind the sticks. They were playing from behind. They really couldn't get anything going in that regard, and because they were down 20 points in the first half, they really couldn't have a consistent running game. So I don't think the game plan was the problem, although I do think the play calling was the problem.
The play calling is the problem now again. And, Zach, that's where I'm very bothered this morning is last week Coach told us I beat myself up over it. I beat myself up more than anyone else can beat me up, and I've got all these play callers on my staff, and we're going to consult, and we're going to make sure I'm making the right calls. And then they go out and run the ball 3 times. It's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace.
Well, so I'm not as caught up on the lack of running plays as you are, and I think some fans are, because I think that was more of a symptom of the problem, right? I think that if the script didn't get out of hand so quickly, you would have seen more runs. Also, they had RPOs that, because of the look that the Cowboys gave them, they passed the ball. That being said, you are correct that they need to run the ball. They need to give Miles Sanders the ball more than 2 times as a running back. So I agree with you there, but I don't think the design was for them to run as little as they did. And in fact, I think you need to be a good passing team, and the problem last night was they weren't a good passing team.
Zach, real quick, let's talk about the quarterback, because I think he's got 2 things going against him. I think it's timing and arm strength, because if his timing isn't perfect, he doesn't have the arm to recover. We've had 7 games. I know it's a small body of work, and usually it's fair to only judge somebody after 2 years of play at the NFL level. If I asked you to fill in the blank, Jalen Hurts' arm after 7 games is?
Not good enough. Not consistent enough. That's how I would put it. I think you put it well. I think Jalen Hurts can give you the spectacular plays, just week-to-week consistency. This is what we needed to see going into the year. Now, part of it, you look at the coaching staff. They had a game plan week 1 that I thought was more conducive for what Jalen can do than what you saw last night. That said, when you're going up against Dak Prescott or next week against Patrick Mahomes, you need your quarterback to do more than Jalen Hurts did.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Zach Berman from The Athletic joining us here on the John Kincade Show. Zach, what would be your guesses what he comes out with next? Just say to us, like, what's going to be the next I'm going to fix this message? Because last week it was the beat up thing. What's it going to be this week?
I think their message this week is going to be no one feels bad for us. We need to get out of it. They're still putting this together, and to a certain extent, week 1 kind of heightened expectations. Things looked so good week 1, and they're not as good as they looked week 1. I don't know if they're as bad as they looked last night, but what's concerning for Eagles fans, or should be concerning for Eagles fans, is the gulf between the Cowboys and the Eagles was apparent for all to see.
Zach, we've talked often about Fletcher Cox, and I do keep saying I need some more from him. 2 games now, no tackles. First, your impression of how he's been playing, and second, is it believable that what they're saying, that he's getting double-teamed and he's still performing?
Well, last night was a little tough with Cox because he was sick all week. He didn't practice. He didn't eat. That's why he had cramps, had to leave the game. But overall, I don't think Cox is playing at the level we've seen in previous years. Now, Javon Hargrave is playing at a really high level. So when the guy next to you is, I do think some of that is because of the attention that Fletcher commands. But they need more from Fletcher Cox. He's the highest paid player on the team. He's the player the defense is supposed to be built around. You need more production. It can't just be drawing attention for the other guys. They need more production from him.
Jonathan Gannon did not have a great night. After two performances where he had the Eagles in points allowed towards the top of the NFL, when you've heard him speak and you hear him talk about philosophy, it was always, we don't let anyone get behind us. They let that happen a lot last night, over and over.
Yeah, I think they were purposely soft last night in their coverage. They did allow some big plays, and frankly, the intermediate game was a big problem last night too. So I think that Gannon could have mixed it up. I thought what you saw from the defense the first 2 weeks was encouraging. I thought last night it wasn't as much scheme-related on defense. It was personnel-related. I just don't think they had the talent on the defensive side of the ball to stop what the Cowboys were doing, especially when the pass rush wasn't getting home consistently enough.
Zach, in your opinion, why was there so many miscommunications between the secondary and the linebacking core last night? It seemed like the Cowboys' touchdowns were a walk in the park.
Yeah, that's a good question. I frankly need to go back and watch that from my seat in the press box. I thought that, just third down defense there. They did have the miscommunication. I think of the touchdown to Schultz in particular. But I don't frankly know why that was a problem, because that back seven has been pretty good in terms of communication during the first 2 weeks. So I don't know what it was, but the results were there for all to see.
You know how the veteran players, it was played up, have really been connecting with this coaching staff and sort of getting their message out and carrying the water for them. I've seen a lot of bad teams over the years, though, Zach, that once things start to go bad, it's the veteran players that actually turn on what's going on and the messaging. Are you worried at all about that with this locker room?
I wouldn't necessarily say worried about the veteran players turning on it. What I would be more worried about is that the messaging is not effective in certain cases. When you lead the league in penalties after 3 games, and you talk about these 5 core values, and 2 of them are fundamentals of football IQ, and you consistently are playing behind the sticks and making pre-snap penalties, that's a reflection of either the messaging or the philosophy, whatever it may be. That's problematic. So I think that the veterans they have on the team, I don't think it's a matter of tuning out Sirianni or tuning out the message, but I think that the message needs to be more effective than the people they're delivering the message to.
Zach, what's the confidence level of the coaching staff in Miles Sanders?
I think they like Miles. I don't think that they want to use a running back, the way Miles Sanders' fantasy owners want to use him, for instance, right? Like, I think that they want a backfield type committee. That's what he used in Indianapolis, and I think they want backs to have different skill sets. That said, Miles needs to touch the ball more. He's really dangerous with the ball in his hands. But I think that this coaching staff, from what I gather, prefers kind of a committee approach and a mix and match in the backfield.
You got a big week ahead of you here because it's a short turnaround, and the Chiefs are coming to town. Thankfully, there's not a high-powered offense to test that defense.
Yeah, and frankly, it doesn't get any easier when you look at the Chiefs, the Panthers, the Bucks, the Raiders.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, this might get worse before it gets better. But we knew that going into the year, that the toughest part of the schedule is September and October, and then it gets lighter later on. So I would say the Eagles fans, they kind of need to buckle in for the long haul, but these next few weeks could be rocky.
Zach, you are excellent content, and we appreciate your contribution, buddy. Safe travels.
Anytime.
There you go, buddy.
Thanks, Zach.
The John Kincade Show on 97.5, The Fanatic, Philadelphia.